Shanghai-London Stock Connect aims to make Chinese shares available to British investors and vice versa. This tie-up was supposed to have been launched back in December, but was postponed because of uncertainties around Brexit, among other things. China says announcements like this demonstrate the country is beginning to open up its markets. For the UK's part, China will be a trading partner needed more than ever before as this country finds its feet as the UK leaves the EU.
I think it represents quite a big step for UK-China relations, and given the issues surrounding Brexit, of course, and the UK's desire to be seen as a global financial centre, or still seen as a global financial centre, it's a big step. I think to open up the Chinese economy to UK investors, but also to allow Chinese investors access to the UK and its smaller companies is a very big step. I think it represents a major development in relations between the two financial centres.
This is a very significant opening up of the Chinese financial market, and it is an example of the step-by-step development of the Chinese capital market into one of the largest capital markets in the world.
China's Vice Premier is leading a delegation to London, but he will discover Britain's senior politicians somewhat sidetracked by the Conservative leadership campaign to decide who succeeds Prime Minister Theresa May. All of this against the ongoing backdrop of Brexit and the debate surrounding Britain's place in the EU and the wider world. Throw in a destabilizing trade war between China and the United States, and you can see why China and the UK are strengthening financial ties in an uncertain world.
China's economic performance continued within a reasonable range and managed to deal with downward pressure in May. The nation's power generation in the first 5 months rose 3.3% year-on-year. The consumption of liquefied natural gas in May rose 7% year-on-year. Moreover, rare earths has become the latest flashpoint in U.S.-China trade tensions. A spokesperson with China's top economic planner said, as the world's largest supplier of such materials, China is willing to try its best to satisfy global demand for rare earths as long as it's used for legitimate purposes. But the government resolutely opposes any attempt to use products made with China's exported rare earths material to suppress the country's development.
互利共赢，需要各方诚意维护。
Mutual benefits and win-win cooperation needs the sincerity of all parties. Some countries ignore global trade rules and destroy the global industrial chain. We resolutely oppose anyone trying to curb and suppress China's development with the use of its rare earth resources.
反用于遏制、打压中国的发展。
Moreover, the Commission is collecting opinions on pursuing high-quality development and will roll out rare earths policies as soon as possible. China's economic growth in the first 5 months of the year remains resilient, but the headwinds and downward pressure are still very strong. And Chinese senior officials say that the country should be able to maintain the long-term fundamentals by stimulating market vitality as well as social creativity.
A highly anticipated dialogue among 3 tech giants. On Monday afternoon, Huawei founder and CEO Ren Zhengfei held a dialogue with 2 American technology gurus, discussing topics ranging from geopolitics to the China-US trade war and to a techno-utopian future, a future that may bring Huawei some challenges, according to its 75-year-old leader.
未来这2年，公司会减产的。
In the next 2 years, we'll have to reduce our total production revenue by $30 billion to around $100 billion, but after a big update, we'll bounce back to be even stronger.
我们可以重新焕发出勃勃生机。
George Gilder is well renowned as one of the leading economic and technological thinkers of the past 40 years. As a techno-utopian advocate, he believes a technology cold war will do no one any good.
I can contribute to saving the United States in this from a terrible mistake that it's currently making, epitomized by their stupid bans and tariffs and restrictions on Huawei. But also, I can contribute to a reconstruction of internet architecture to address the terrible security collapse across the internet that makes everybody paranoid and nobody trusts anybody else.
Ren says modern society has to respect rule of law, not the rule of jungle.
人类社会呢，不是丛林法则。
Human society did not develop on the rules of jungle, but by mutual balancing, cooperation, and establishing order. Even if you're a lion, you still cannot eat all the rabbits. A technological divorce or even Cold War between China and the U.S. will do harm to both countries. We need global cooperation.
Professor Nicholas Negroponte is a co-founder of the MIT Media Lab. He helped drive the birth of the computer industry, the internet, and much of the technology we use in our daily lives.
Our president has already said publicly that he would reconsider Huawei if we can make a trade deal. So clearly it's not about national security. We don't trade national security. So it's about something else. And this trade war has got to end. And that, I believe, will end sooner rather than later.
CGTN's Tianwei moderated the dialogue.
It's wonderful to be informed by real information and real thinkers than being tied up by daily tweets and, shall we say, only spreads of emotions.
Facing this skepticism, misunderstanding, and even hostility against the company, Huawei is taking every measure and approach to reshape its brand in the world. And this dialogue, A Coffee with Ren, is part of the attempt.
Godavari struggles every day to collect water for her family from this almost drying well. Her village in the central Indian district of Bid is facing the worst water scarcity. Since all the wells and ponds in her village have dried, she has to trek more than 2 kilometers to fetch water. She says the load on her head weighs more than her. Just 10 days back, she came down with fever and body ache due to fatigue.
The road isn't good as it is being built. I don't get time to study. I don't get time to play. I have to bring water 3 times a day. I'm scared of falling into the well.
The only source of water is a nearby dam in these areas. In parched villages, people are forced to drink untreated water supplied by tankers. Mostly the women carry and collect water in drought-hit areas. Irregular and scarce rainfall has dried most water sources in these regions. The government is also providing fodder and water for animals in 300 such cattle camps. With no water in many villages, thousands of farmers have also moved into these camps. They are the worst hit as this drought has forced them to become refugees. Farmers are struggling the most in these drought-stricken regions. Dilip Bhushan Rao has seen 3 crop failures. He says if it does not rain this year, he will also be forced to migrate to another place for livelihood.
We have no other means of income. All we have is farming. Farming is the only livelihood for us, so we can't look after the family. It is very difficult.
To address this water emergency, the government is now prioritizing water management initiatives.
Under Jal Yukt Shivar Abhiyan, we make, rejuvenate, rebuild our small water storage structure.
People here have realized that water is life. While they wait for rains to arrive, they also know that there are no quick fix solutions to this water crisis.
The power went out in Argentina and Uruguay. All of both countries were affected, save for the southernmost tip of Argentina. Public transport was suspended. Many stores were closed. During local elections in parts of Argentina, voters cast their ballots using the lights of their cell phones.
I don't think anything like this has ever happened, and this time it has affected other neighboring countries. I just took a ride from the north, and the delay was so bad that I had to wait about 50 minutes before we were allowed to get on.
Businesses struggled without electricity. Argentina's government says it's the first national power outage in the country's history. Argentina blamed the blackout on the collapse of a key interconnection system. The much smaller Uruguay restored its power quicker. The Argentinian government has apologized to its citizens for the inconvenience. Experts say that Argentina's power grid is in urgent need of an upgrade after years of disrepair.